Hello YouTube, Stefan here. This is kind of part 2 of the video about Milviz Otter. Basically I was asked a few requests in the comment of my first video that you can go check if you haven't looked at it yet. So in this video we're going to cover basically two things, three in a sense. The first thing that I was asked was a little bit more information or a little bit more demonstration in terms of the visual and in terms of the physical aspect of the plane. So we will do a quick walk around together. And then I was asked about the what about the land operation. For those of you who've been flying Milviz Beaver, you've probably noticed that the plane feels extremely tail heavy on the takeoff roll, which shouldn't be the case, I think, but I'll be honest with you, I don't have any experience with the Beaver. So this is going to be a bit of a discovery here because I'm actually going to test those wheel operation, land operation, as I film. So let's do this together. So there she is. You guys are currently looking at my home plate, which is Chibougamau, Quebec. And as you can see, it's definitely the winter here. So this is real-time weather by Active Sky 4. So you can clearly see those huge double slat flaps there. I'm gonna get closer to the plane so that you guys can see a little bit more about the texture. So I think we're looking at some real-time reflection. So that's good, but I gotta be honest with you, I feel like the riveting could be maybe a little bit more sharp, if I may say. But despite that though, I kind of like the detail level here. I'm personally satisfied. I don't know what you guys can I don't know if you guys can comment on that maybe below in the comments, but personally I find this is at least on par with what the industry standard is right now with the different add-on that I've been fiddling around. So you can see the trim tab here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to activate them. Yeah. So you can see the elevator trim tab here moving, and don't worry, it is absolutely normal on the Otter to have the elevator to move as part of the trim system. So the stabilizer doesn't move, but the elevator is also moving. So it's not only the trim tab, but really the whole assembly that works together when it's time to trim. So that gives a lot of trim authority to the Otter, which is kind of a good thing because, you know, we're still talking about a 8,000-pound plane that is actually shorter than it is wide. If my memory is correct, it's about 53 feet wide and only 40, gosh, is it 42 or 48 feet long? Sorry, I can't remember the exact number, but it's definitely wider than it is longer. So having a lot of elevator authority is a must for that bird. So I don't know for you, I really like the look of that big tailplane there. So coming on the starboard side, again, you can see the flaps here, and I'll take time to show you all those linkage, all those connections under the wing. Sorry, I'm struggling a little bit with my track IR. It's been a while since I've been using it. So that, from what I remember, is exactly what they look like in real life. So you can see it's a complex system of links between the first slat of the flaps that covers the whole length of the wing, and then the aileron that are connected to that first slat of flap there. So that's part of the flap system here, and then this is your wing aileron. And those things are seriously huge, huge, huge. The wing itself is also quite thick, considering that there's no fuel tanks in it. The Otter has all of its fuel, just like the Beaver, in its belly. So you can see that just like the Beaver, we have the Milviz have introduced the engine tent for cold winter ups. It's pretty well rendered. That's really not bad. It's textured and everything. It really looks like the you know, that kind of tarp plastic that it's normally made of. And it might not give a very, very thick impression, but I know that in real life these are actually pretty well lined with insulation. But my guess is that their normal function is probably more to protect the ingress of snowdrift in the cowling and stuff like that. But yeah, so there they are. I hope that answers your question about the external model. So we'll jump in. Let me take that off first. There we go. And can I open the door even though I'm not sitting in it? No, I have to jump in to actually open the door. Well, anyway, so let's go in. Alright, so the other thing that I was asked on top of the external model was also to look at the sound a little bit more, because in my first video you guys were stuck with my voice. So I'll run through the engine startup and the pre-flight process without speaking much, and I'm actually going to increase the sim volume so that you might be able to hear a little bit better. So I'll be right back after the engine is running.
System test OK.
Alright, so she's all warmed up and ready for a quick flight around. The takeoff roll is what we're interested in checking in, and I'll keep the sound as it is right now. I hope you can still hear me. So I'll let you enjoy that beautiful roar of Pratt & Whitney R1340. Right, so we're takeoff flaps, full rich, full fine, carb is off, fuel pressure is good, oil pressure is good, cylinder head temperature is on the cool side, but that's still acceptable, so let's go.
Don't sing. Don't sing. Don't sing. Don't sing.
Right, so as you can see, the ceiling is awfully low today. We're starting to lose the ground visibility in about 700 above ground, so not a good day to be flying IFR. Or should I say, not a legal day to be flying IFR. wasn't my best landing, but that will do the trick. Alright, we'll check our payload here. I don't know if you saw that, but the initial climb right after takeoff felt a little bit too jet style for a Otter. Let's check if I was actually loaded. I was able to bring the tail up at about 50 knots. This is where we're going to be landing, just for the fun of it. Alright, while we're at it, let's try something else. Do you guys see where I'm going with it?
Don't sink. Don't sink. Don't sink.
Well, that's about it. I don't know for you personally, sound is just fine, honestly. If it wasn't for the fact that it only follows the engine RPM, it seems to be absolutely not influenced by the manifold pressure, which is kind of a bit sad. But other than that, honestly, sound is just fine. Um, so about the rotation and the tail behavior on the takeoff roll, here's my take on it. On my first takeoff, it seemed okay. I'd say about 35 or 40 knots I was able to bring the tail up, which came in quickly because I don't know if you guys have noticed, I had about 13 or 15 knots of headwind on the runway. So that seems fine. Then when we did our second takeoff, when I did the second takeoff, we were now at maximum gross weight, and the center of gravity on the graph here seemed pretty center under the wheel either. Something came up in a comment lately on my first video was about the windshield reflection and texture. It is very clear, like there's not much, but if you guys check on the edges, I hope the quality is not gone through YouTube compression and stuff like that, but if you guys check around the edges, sorry, of the windscreen, there is a bit of visual clue or hint that there's actually a piece of Lexan in front of us. But clearly there's no dashboard reflection or anything like that, which would have been quite nice. Totally agree with you. But I have the feeling that this is something that can actually be modified by people who are making the skins, you know, the repainters for those add-ons. So if I take, for example, I have a repaint for A2A's 182. It's Charlie Golf Uniform Romeo Sierra. If you guys are looking for it on the internet, and it's pretty cool. It actually has a dirty windshield, like you can see bugs splat and drops of oil that actually flow in the windshield, so it really enhanced the feel of immersion. I totally agree. And one last comment quickly, I don't know if you guys have seen me when I went in my settings at one point. I felt like I didn't get enough frame rates, enough frame per second, like I normally do on such a light scenery like Shibugamo area here. So what I realized that I had turned on the 3 shadow and the building shadow. I'll show you my settings here again. Every single autogen building in the scenery was casting his own shadow, and not only that shadow is cast on the ground, but I don't know if you guys can see here, my CPU usage went down to 65-70%, and as you can see, I'm stable at 30 frames per second. So that might be something you might want to check in your sim, especially if you're flying P3D version 3 or version 4. This is a major GPU sucker. Alright, so that'll be it for our part 2 or take 2 on the Milviz Otter. As usual, if you guys like the video, please give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like the video, please give me a thumb down. And if you have any questions or comments, please use that section for that just below that video. It's always appreciated, and I always try to take the time to answer your question. Bye bye.